Hello everybody and welcome to a new style of video here on the channel. We're covering a figure this time instead of just a miniature. I do find figures quite entertaining, so I figured I have quite a collection of them. Why not go through and collect them and start off with something that's no doubt familiar to all of you, the Chaos Terminators. This model is a few years old, and I'll admit I've had him for quite some time, but I figured I can still review him. Before we get into the figure, let's cover the box and the clamshell he comes in. So here's the box, 15 plus what they list. This is from Joytoy, the main figure producer for Warhammer. Whoops. You can see they have some shots back here. Contains one 17.5 centimeter collector's action figure and accessories. Then we've just got a few different pose shots of him. Here we can see the head he comes with, which we'll cover real quickly. Let me get this paint. So yeah, I was, oh, and I just dropped a Terminator. Whoops. And a loyalist one. See, paint rag. Here's the clamshell he comes in. Definitely a bit light on accessories. You can see that's where he'd go. That's where his helmet would be. His spare hand and his unhelmeted head. Let me take that out real quick. So here you can see his non-gripping hand, because he's obviously equipped with his combi bolter. I don't really see a reason to pose him without his combi bolter. I think it would look rather strange. Perhaps if you were doing stop motion or something, this would be very helpful. I'm glad they included it, even if I don't think it's the most necessary thing in the world. And then here's his unhelmeted head, based on one of the various half-helms from the Terminator kit, as this model is directly based on that, of course. You can see it's a pretty standard ball connection. I won't be putting this head on just because putting heads on these Terminators is not particularly easy. It's just given the design, it's one of the limitations. But I think this head is fine. I think the shading is well done. And even the eyes, I think, are well printed for what they are. They're very small, but I still think they did it quite well. They're not looking too cross-eyed or wall-eyed or anything like that, and the little edge highlights are nice. We'll put these two to the side for now, and move on to the figure himself. So obviously, this guy is done up in Black Legion livery, as to be expected. They are the poster boys of Chaos Space Marines. He is based directly on this Terminator pose from the kit. You can tell by the skull on his belt. And if this guy was equipped with a combi bolter and power fist, you would see that the two are very similar. We'll say, in terms of paint, I believe they did a pretty good job. I think the application is nice everywhere. This is maybe a little bit faded, but I think that might just be, you know, the facts of life. I think the Primaris helmet up here, very well done. I believe this was pre-Primaris, so I think this is supposed to be like Mark IV, but maybe I'm just tweaking. The skulls, I think, are fine, if a little bland. I would have liked to see maybe a Cadian helmet up there or something. The paint on this skull, I think, is really well done, and the little dry brushing they did on his tabard and the metallic chainmail is very nice. His belt is rather loose, as you can see. These bits here, the skull as well, and this little talisman, are all on very small ball pegs just to free up posability, which is good because this guy's posability is pretty limited just on the fact that the Terminator design does not lend itself very well to that kind of thing. I will say, these the chainmail bits, this is actually made of a hard plastic, but here, made of soft plastic. One detail I really particularly like is back here, we have the cabling for his power fist, which is, you know, fully flexible, and it's nicely painted. And the vents back here, I think, are also very well done. On paint and detail, I think this is quite solid. They also got the eyes. They're simple. There's no, like, highlights or anything, but I think they look quite good. Small speck of paint there, but I have had this figure for 2 years and didn't notice until this very moment, so. We'll say the eyes of Chaos are looking maybe a little bit plain. They may have used something, they should have used something maybe glossier. I think that would make it look more like a gem, but that's just minor. I think the combi bolter is actually a very good example of how nice the paint is here. Especially on the bolter shells themselves. As you can see, they've got these nice disintegrating chains, or disintegrating links, rather, and that's on both sides, of course. This guy does have paint the whole way around, which is very good. Certain other companies do kind of just half-ass it once you get to the back of the figure, but this guy is very good the whole way around. In terms of posability, he's got a good amount of joints. On each arm, he has a ball socket in the hand, double-jointed elbows, which is kind of hard to tell just because it's also black, but that is very useful. It would be more useful if the, you know, this shoulder pad wasn't in the way, but still, that allows him to cock his gun upwards, good for sort of more relaxed poses like this. The shoulder pads are huge, as they should be. They are connected on a ball peg up in there, up in the shadows. So that does free up some articulation, and it's not that bad, considering it is a Terminator, and a Chaos one at that. This is probably about the best they could do, but since he can spin his arm around, I'll take that, though he definitely has no butterfly joints. Though he can push his arm... Actually, he does have a butterfly joint. See there? I lied. It doesn't... It's not the most useful thing, but it is nice just to get his weapons maybe pointed slightly more forward if you wanted to go for sort of a walking pose, something like that. It's kind of... This reminds me of a meme. I can't remember which one, but he's kind of like plug walking. But on the other arm, of course, posability is pretty much the same, though I will say the Power Fist really limits what you can do here just because it's so big and bulky. Does have a bicep swivel on this arm, which he also has on this one. Just wanted to make sure. Bicep swivel, very nice, so you can stick his arm out to the side to do something impossible, or even turn it all the way around to shoot at someone behind you, because models don't need to see who they're shooting at so long as they are visible in a 360-degree arc. This isn't 2nd edition anymore. I think overall, the posability in the arms is pretty solid. The Power Fist is definitely pretty restrictive. Just, again, it's a bulky thing on a bulky model, so you're going to have to deal with that. Though the paint and detailing on the Power Fist itself, I think, is very, very nice. The belt with all the little posable things settles pretty nicely. Sometimes the heads, like the skulls, will get like that. It's very easy to fix. I have not had any of these parts pop off. The only part I've had pop off is this. And I don't want to mess with it too much because I think I finally got it properly seated. But this head can be quite difficult to get into the socket. Just hit it with a hairdryer or some hot water to loosen up the hole to get the peg to sit properly in the helmet. Because if you're collecting a Chaos Terminator, he needs to have those tusks. We'll say the paintwork on the tusks is fairly disappointing. It is this dark brown, and there is nice bone applications near the tip, but up here it just kind of blends in with the armor. I wish this had a full dry brush effect like up here. It would be very nice. From behind, legs are very nice. Let's move on to the leg articulation. Double jointed again, but the design here very much limits what you could do, just given the sort of piston exoskeleton things that Terminators have. But the joints up in the hips are actually very, very nice. Again, limited just by the design of what a Terminator is, but still, you can get him into some, you can get him into a kneeling pose pretty easily. If you wanted to do, there's a Terminator in Space Hulk that's doing like this exact pose, ripping up a floor panel. He does have toe articulation, though it's very tight and very minuscule. I mean, I don't want to force it, but that's pretty much all you're getting out of it. Not the greatest. Still nice to have, though. So you can do poses like that from Space Hulk. You can go for a pretty standard, just sort of stanced-up pose, maybe with the fist out and looking off to the side, something like that. Kind of looking contemptuous and prideful, as Chaos Terminators are. You can pretty much do the pose that this model is based on pretty easily if you sort of stagger the legs like this. This is one of the few times where you'll probably have to employ that very small toe bend, and then have this fist off out to the side and have him look forward and up. This is more hunched, so maybe you're drifting a lot, pal. Can you stand upright? Something like that is pretty akin to what the miniature itself looks like that this is directly based on. Not perfect, but I don't have... I have this model, but given that he's using a different loadout, it's not the most useful. Overall, this model, I'd say, has a lot of posability, only held back by its nature of a super bulky superhuman soldier wearing power armor that is intentionally bulky and big. Size-wise, he's actually pretty diminutive height-wise, but obviously he's very bulky. Comparing him to an SH Figuarts Gogeta, he's a little bit shorter, which means he does not really scale. I think this guy's supposed to be 1/12 maybe, and this guy maybe, I'm not really sure, because Gogeta is 5'10", and obviously Terminators are closer to like 8 feet tall. So obviously these two don't really scale together, though. I'm not sure a Chaos Terminator would want to run into Gogeta. That would end very poorly for the Tusked Warrior. So again, he stands, let me grab my tape measure. So he obviously isn't fully upright here, but he stands at about 5.5 inches tall, 5.25 maybe, as you can see there. Not counting the trophy rack. Obviously the trophy rack adds on about 1.25 inches, bringing him up to almost 7 inches tall, which is fairly standard. Comparing him to another figure that I own, he obviously isn't to scale here with our melting Godzilla, but I just wanted to give more frame of reference. Obviously, put him. Whoops! Stand up, right, pal. Stand up for yourself. You're a Terminator, the most prideful and powerful Chaos Marines there are. Boink, like that. Stop slouching. There we go. And then you have a regular miniature here. Do I have any Primaris Marines nearby? I do, right here. Just as a more frames of reference. He is, of course, towering over these guys. Let me grab one more reference model. And finally, we have the Imperial Knight that I painted in 1 hour and 15 minutes. As you can see, he's actually not that far off from the Imperial Knight. If these guys were to meet in combat, they would be pretty evenly matched, all things considered. Of course, that is not to scale. Though they did actually release a to scale one of these in scale with these figures, which is like $600. So obviously I do not own that. Let's throw in Gogeta for good measure. Overall, what ranking would I give this figure? I'd say probably in the ballpark of a 7 to an 8 out of 10. Just because in the restrictions of what a Terminator entails, I think they did a good job. And the posability is really good. It's just held back by the nature of being a Terminator. He also is a little lacking in accessories. Let's get Gojira out of here. My good friend Goji. And here for reference is that Gogeta's clamshell, who's a model who doesn't even come with that many accessories, but also he's from an action anime, so it kind of makes sense that he has a lot more hands and everything. Not that this guy really needs faceplates, but I wanted to give a frame of reference. He was about $65 when I bought him about 2 years ago, which was about the same price I got Gogeta for, but he's also much older. He's a 7-year-old figure at this point. This guy is 2 or 3 years old. So the price point, I think, is totally fine. I think this guy makes a nice, imposing collection to any shelf. If you collect figures, or if you just want to sort of dip your toes in and want to stick with what you know with 40K, I think this is a great way to jump in. I don't own any of the joytoy sort of just like intercessors, but I've heard very good things from a friend of mine who has a few of them. And overall, I think this model is very good. I think joytoy as a company, very, very tight with the way they make their figures. And yeah, I think that just about covers everything. So this was my first figure review. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you all next time. Let's give him a wave. Let's give him a wave. Yeah. Woo! That was really dumb. Anyways, yeah, that's a good way to end it. Bye-bye.